So today I'm going to go over this one feedback loop that helped my clients triple their profitability. Not only did this work for my clients, but this actually also worked in my own agency. And these are just two of the examples. I have many more examples of this exact feedback loop. Let's get into it. I'm going to show you exactly how to make this happen for yourselves and the step-by-step right after. Here's the example. This one feedback loop literally took this one client all the way from 13% profitability, then to 36, then to 50%. Now, this client had started working with me earlier in around March-ish. It took a little bit to get this thing going, but it worked over time because this is all about iteration. And in this other example, very similar story here. These clients worked with me since January, 14%, 14%, 10%, and then boom, the system started kicking in with enough iterations. And now they are averaging above 40% profit per month. And just some context, this agency is a little bit smaller. They're doing around 170K top line. The bottom one is a little bit bigger. They're doing in the mid 200s in terms of top line. So this is a lot of profit, right? There's a lot of money to take home. So it's nothing to sneeze at here. So here's the steps. The 3 keys to success that we're going to go over today are client retention and feedback loops, which is actually the main point. Then better client results dashboards. So this is about how do we house the data that show us how to get this great results for clients. And then number 3, identify top and bottom performers, meaning our own team members. So client retention / feedback loops with a client, better client results, because the better the results, the more clients are going to want to stick around, the more we can upsell them, etc. And identifying our best people, because when we identify our best people and reward them, guess what? We're going to get better work out of them. So let's go through this step by step, how to make this thing happen. If you don't do this in this order, it doesn't work. So every step matters. The thing will just simply not work because it will not gain traction. And I'm going to get into the nuances here of why each step matters after I explain each step. I'm going to tell you right now that this is the most theoretical I'm going to get with you. Everything after this is completely tangible and essential. This is how engaging with clients work. This is the problem that most people start off with at the very front end. This is a mindset issue that your team may be having, right? When we're trying to figure out how to maintain clients, how to expand the lifetime value of client. Retention's all the way down here. Then we have testimonials, upsells, and referrals. I want you to think of the axis here, the vertical, as how happy a client is with you. They don't need to be that happy with you in order to stay with you. They need to be a little bit happier with you to actually stick around and give you a testimonial. They need to be even happier for them to buy even more of your services, meaning we can upsell them, additional services, more of the same, whatever have you. And to give you a referral, they need to be ecstatic. They need to be absolutely thrilled with what you're doing. The biggest problem here is that people are generally trying to hunt retention, not necessarily testimonials. Maybe they're hunting upsells, but most people are definitely not hunting referrals. And so what happens when you do this? Well, if all you're trying to do is hunt retention, you are going to end up with something in this range where you're going to have some testimonials that are good. Some clients might be, up here, and some clients are below this retention line, and we're going to lose these clients. Anything below this retention line, we lose clients. So this means client turnover, client churn. If we aim for referral, what's going to happen? Well, the majority of our results are going to be all over the place, right? We're going to have some above, some below, some whatever. The point is that when we hunt for referrals, the odds that if we miss, we still are in the testimonial zone, or maybe even in the upsell zone, but definitely over the retention zone, it matters, right? Because misses mean that we still retain clients. Now, this might seem a very vague thing, but it is very tangible because the mindset that we approach things with matter. So this is where we're going to start off with the client feedback loop. And the client feedback loop is very specific steps that we need to take in order to create this feedback loop, which is the center of everything. This is how we're going to get better iterations. I don't know if you know this, but if you get 1% better 200 times, that's a 730% increase because of its compounding effect. Now, you might think 200 iterations, that's way too many, but think about it this way. If you have 40 clients and you do 5 months of iteration on each one of the 40, meaning you're getting feedback from all of them and you're getting that improvement every single time, that's only going to take you 5 months. And this is to just show you an exaggerated point, which is the client feedback loop is the heartbeat of how we make our product and service better. And we need to get really obsessive about this, because if clients are leaving us and we're, well, they didn't have the budget, they didn't have this. Budget is allocated to things that work, where people believe it works. So if they don't believe it works, it means that it's not that the budget got taken away from us or whatever have you, it's that they just didn't believe in us. So we need to make our product better, and this is how we do it. So we start off with Net Promoter Score. If you don't know what Net Promoter Score is, basically you send a client a survey asking them how they are to refer us, scoring out of 10. 9s and 10s mean awesome, that they're very to refer us. 7 and 8s are neutral, and 6 and below is danger. I actually consider 7 and below danger, because 7, they'll retain you at 7, but if it goes below 7, they're immediately gonna start looking for other agencies potentially. And if they have targets to hit and they think that it could be better, 7 kind of puts you in the danger zone. So we NPS people first. Then after NPS, we do a client feedback call, one-to-one with a client, to ask them why they gave us the score that they gave us. I don't care what it is, whether it's 1 or it's 10 or anything in between, we are calling them. And we're gonna ask them very specific questions about, why did you give us the score? What could we do better? What did you like about the service so far? What are the initiatives that you're really concerned about in the next 3 to 6 months? Very specific questions, so that we can get as much value added feedback as we possibly can. If they scored us a 9 or a 10 on the NPS that we sent out previously, we can then upsell them, try to get a referral from them or a testimonial. And we should literally ask for these things in this call. By the way, if you want an NPS SOP, we have a resource. You can find the link down in the comments and or on my newsletter. After the feedback call happens, whether we get a referral, testimonial, upsell, whatever, doesn't matter. All things move down into communication. Communication meaning we have to communicate the feedback succinctly to the rest of the team. All the client, account managers, all of the digital people, creative people, doesn't matter what they are, doesn't matter. We need to communicate back the feedback succinctly. And based off that communication, the teams are responsible to amend the process and or service in order to make it better. And there is how we close the loop, right? So if we make the service better, if we make quality of the service, the experience, how we educate clients, get better results, etc., we basically create this iterative flywheel of improvement every single month. Because the best practice of NPS is doing it every single month and then getting a high response rate on it. By the way, the number one complaint people have on NPS is, I have a really low response rate. NPS response rate should be anywhere between 60 to 75% every time we send it out. Ideally, we're sending it out every single month. Second thing is we need a client dashboard. And now this is just a quick snippet that I have of how to put all the master dashboards together, but you have to take all the clients into one spreadsheet. You have to write down their results weekly, find industry benchmarks, and then compare them to that. So for example, if the client's goal / industry benchmark is we want a 4x ROAS and we are tracking below that, we need to understand that. And not only do we need to track that on a monthly basis, we need to track that on a weekly basis. Why? Because if we catch it on a weekly basis and can actually do something about it before the month closes out, what we're going to be able to do is pick up our socks in real time and do what we need to do strategically, tactically to actually get to the clients these results. So early detection of performance is key. So we need to put all these things to a dashboard. And I'm going to show you what this looks like. This is just a quick sample. You have your pods. You can either have pods or you can have CAMs. CAM stands for Client Account Manager. Who is the specialist that reports to the CAM, if any? Client name, status, are they on target? Are they below target? Are they exceeding target? Where's the source of the data? What is the target type? Is it lead volume, ROAS, sales? What are we measuring? What the target is. This is an example, like from January, right? The target's 35 leads, we got 14, that's 40% versus actual, right? For that week. That's the total week for the entire month. This is what we achieved in the first week. That's why it's green. Because if we were to do this for the next 3 weeks, we're going to blow this out of the water. We are on pace to exceed. Then, to show you the same thing over again, you have what it ended up being for the entire month, right? So you add all of them up. Where do we end up for the entire month? Well, client 1 on target, client 2 on target, client 3 below target, 62%. This is a problem. Then there are very clear next steps that this needs to take. We're on target. We're going to launch new test. 111%. We're on target. We're going to stay the course and plan ahead because things are good. 2%, this is a bad enough miss that it needs an escalation audit. And there's a few next steps that I generally recommend. There is self-audit, manager audit, and then there can be team lead audit, or whoever the best person is. Another one that I've done before too is peer audit. So depending on the level of escalation, somebody else should audit the account to see why it is that we're missing. What's the point of that dashboard? Well, the agenda that governs that dashboard is very, very specific. So that dashboard, we're gonna have every single client on it. We're gonna have all the people that contributed to the results of those clients in one call, because we're gonna create a learning environment out of reviewing that dashboard. And the agenda is gonna be, what did we do to exceed targets and what can we learn from it? What questions from the team on how we were able to exceed target so that we can take those learnings and apply it to another client? Why did we miss targets and what were the top 3 ways we can solve this miss? So the person whose client it is has the responsibility and accountability to tell the team, this is how we missed and this is what we think is going to solve this miss moving forward. Then the team gets to act a consultant in 2A. So this is suggestions from the rest of the team on how we can bring the results into target. So the rest of the team, because they're working on different clients, people are not overlapped on clients, they're gonna say, hey, of the 3 ways, we think that this is gonna work, not work. Have you considered this? What about these other things? I did this thing on this other client. It worked really, really well. What this does, we are gonna create a learning environment out of this client results dashboard review meeting. We're going to learn from each other what worked. We're going to help each other when we're missing to get the best ideas on the table to have the highest of client wins. Because if we are not generating client wins, the client's not going to be happy with us. We're not going to be able to retain them. And this is a key part of the client feedback loop, because not only are we getting clients feedback on experience, education, expectation setting, all these other things, we're also getting their feedback on the results. And this is how we iterate results on the back end away from the client. So now we are getting into the last step, identify top and bottom performers. Well, based off of the dashboard and the net promoter score that's within the client feedback loop, we are going to be able to identify these top and bottom performers, meaning who is getting the results, who is getting the best client feedback, so we can then reward those people. Not only are we going to reward these top performers, but we are going to get the top performers to train the bottom performers. So we literally take these people, now that we can identify them on who is the client ecstatic about, who is getting the best results, and we're going to use these people, these top performers, to train these bottom performers. Now, I want to be very clear. Some people might perform really well on client feedback because people love them. They should train other people on how to manage clients. On the client results side, we need to take the top performers at generating the specific results that we want to see and generate the bottom performers. Sometimes it's going to be one person that is great at client interactions and generating client results. Great, they can be a trainer on both. But it doesn't have to be. You can have one person that is great at getting awesome client feedback, all these other things. They train the team on that, and there's somebody else that might not be that good at that side of it, but they're able to train people on getting clients better results. And ultimately, this is how we were able to do this. This wasn't the product of one single month. This took about 3.5 months of iteration to get going. And once it all clicked, what happened here? Well, there's a few things. Number one, churn slowed down. So top line revenue went up. And so it's not that we came out here cutting costs, because you can see here, unburdened compensation, SG&A, they went down. The funny thing is we cut no people and we didn't cut costs either. It's just that top line revenue went up because we started getting a bunch of upsells and a bunch of referrals, and we stopped turning clients over. So all you're seeing here is the upside of the system. Very similarly down here, we started upselling aggressively in April, right? Towards the end of it, because it was after the monthly reporting, etc. In the last 2 weeks of April, we were upselling pretty aggressively, and it showed up in May, June, and July. So this is how the system works. There's a little bit of a delay to it, because until you have enough iterations to actually do enough changes where it actually shows this tangible increase in client happiness, you're not going to get the upsells, you're not going to get the referrals, you're not going to get churn slowing down. What you're seeing in these two cases is that all 3 of those things became true. We stopped churn, we were keeping clients for longer, we were upselling clients, and we were also generating referrals from clients from this feedback loop. So I can't stress enough how important it is. If you want to get a hold of me and how I can help you pull this off, let me know. Link in the description. See you next time.